My son can stay home alone overnight, but he's terrified to be alone with my girlfriend, and I don't know how I'm supposed to ignore that. I'm 53 and my son is 23. He's autistic, but he's fairly independent. He works a part-time job, does his own shopping, and stays home alone just fine, sometimes even overnight. I've been dating my girlfriend, who's 48, for almost a year now. When we first got together, my son loved her. He talked about how cool she was and how much fun they had together. At first, she liked him too, but over time, things changed. My son can be a lot sometimes. He's energetic, repetitive, and struggles with sudden changes. My girlfriend, on the other hand, has very little patience. Lately, something seems to go wrong every single time they're alone together. I'll come home, and she's furious about something he did. Meanwhile, my son is sitting there with his hands over his ears, completely overwhelmed, saying he doesn't understand what he did wrong. And honestly, most of the time, I side with him. I've had multiple conversations with her explaining that she needs to talk to me before trying to parent him, before disciplining him, before setting rules. But I keep finding out after the fact. She's grounded him. She's taken his iPad. She's made rules I never knew about. Last week was the worst. While I was gone, she grounded him. She took his phone and iPad, locked his toys in his room, told him not to leave the couch, and then she left him there, alone, for several hours. She didn't tell me. When I found out, I immediately gave everything back to him. She was furious. What I can't understand is how she becomes a completely different person when I'm not around. When all three of us are together, they get along fine. I can tell my son still likes her, even though he says she's mean when they're alone. Ever since that incident, my son keeps asking if he can come to work with me, or if he can stay at the library all day while I'm gone. He insists it's not to avoid her. He says he doesn't have a problem with her, but it's obvious. He's afraid to be alone with her, and that breaks something in me. Every time I try to talk to her about it, she gets defensive. She says I baby him, that I'm too soft, that he's manipulative and has me wrapped around his finger. But it doesn't feel unreasonable to me to expect my son to feel safe in his own home. I don't know how to stay with someone who can't be alone with my child. I don't know how to explain to a partner that discipline without consent isn't discipline. It's control. And I don't know how to choose peace with someone I love over protection of someone who depends on me. I keep asking myself the same question. Is there anything I can do to keep both of them happy? Or is the answer already telling me who needs to come first? After 6 years together, my girlfriend told me I have 3 months to find a job, or our relationship is over. Not because I stopped caring, not because I cheated, not because we don't love each other, but because I've been unemployed in the worst job market of my life. I'm 28 and my girlfriend, let's call her Emily, is 26. We've been together for over 6 years. When we first started dating, everything felt right. I was working full-time, and she was finishing graduate school. A lot of our relationship was long distance, but we made it work. We supported each other through deadlines, stress, and uncertainty. For a long time, I truly believed she was a person I'd spend my life with. Up until 2023, my career was stable. I worked consistently after graduating and never struggled to stay employed. Then I accepted what I thought was my dream job. A few months in, I was let go for being a cultural mismatch. It was the first time I'd ever been fired. It shook me, but I didn't panic. I assumed I'd bounce back quickly. I was wrong. Not because I cheated. Not because we don't love each other. But because I've been unemployed in the worst job market of my life. The job market collapsed almost overnight. Roles that used to get a handful of applicants were suddenly flooded with hundreds. Interviews became rare. To improve my chances, I enrolled in an intensive 4-month full-time course that promised strong employability results. I treated it like a job, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. In hindsight, it was oversold. It didn't lead anywhere. In 2024, I finally landed a sales role, my first ever. I struggled, but I didn't quit. I stayed late, studied constantly, and pushed myself every day. After 8 months, the company started cutting low performers. I was scheduled for a performance review that was clearly a dismissal meeting. I resigned the day before to protect my reference. My manager quietly implied I'd made the right choice. By 2025, I was unemployed again. I applied to everything: office roles, retail, hospitality, entry-level positions. I averaged 2 or 3 interviews a month, sometimes reaching final stages, only to be passed over. Rejection after rejection chipped away at my confidence. As my career stalled, my relationship began to crack. Emily wants a child by 30. She wants to buy a house. She wants momentum. And in her eyes, I became the reason everything was on pause. She told me she feels stuck, that she hates seeing friends get engaged while we're standing still, that she's tired of people asking when I'll be employed again. When I tried to talk about how distant we'd become, she said she was exhausted, that seeing each other once a week was enough, that she felt like she was holding the relationship together. She said I hadn't been expressive enough, that she no longer felt loved. I accepted that criticism. Unemployment had drained me emotionally more than I realized. But what hurt most was how support turned into pressure. After interviews, instead of encouragement, I'd hear things like, "This can't keep dragging on," or "You need to get a job soon, or we won't last." Eventually, I told her that if she was truly unhappy, maybe we should let each other go. I didn't want to be the reason she resented her life. That's when she gave me the ultimatum. 3 months. Find a job, or the relationship ends. It felt less like a partnership and more like a countdown timer. I'm already doing everything I can, applying relentlessly, taking courses, working with recruiters, optimizing my resume. The idea that 6 years could end because of a brutal job market is devastating. What makes it harder is that she's been unemployed before too, just not as long. I know if the roles were reversed, my love wouldn't disappear overnight. Maybe that's naive. Maybe it's just easier to say when you're not the one waiting. Now I'm questioning whether this relationship can survive real hardship. Life doesn't get easier. Aging parents, illness, financial stress, loss. If we can't weather this together, what happens when something worse hits? I still love her. I still want a future. But I'm starting to wonder whether walking away might be the only way to protect what's left of my self-worth. Sometimes, the hardest part of losing a job isn't the money. It's realizing how conditional stability and love can be. Quiet doesn't always mean peace. Sometimes it just means something important is slipping away. Have you ever felt like your partner isn't really talking to you at all? Imagine discovering that your husband, the man you've been with for over a decade, isn't even using his own words to reply to your texts. Instead, he's turning to AI to craft his responses. That's exactly what happened to one woman after 12 years of marriage, and it left her shocked and questioning everything about their relationship. She and her husband had been together for 12 years. Everything seemed normal, but recently, she stumbled across something that made her stomach drop. While browsing his phone, she noticed he was using the ChatGPT app. That in itself isn't unusual these days. But what she found there was 2 very specific prompts caught her attention, both about text between them. One prompt read, "What should I say to make my wife shut up?" with a screenshot of her message to him. Another prompt was a draft of an apologetic reply regarding an argument about him throwing her freshly dried clothes on the floor so he could use the dryer. She felt a wave of shock. The realization hit her. The man she'd been with for over a decade wasn't even putting his own mental effort into communicating with her. Every word, every apology was being generated by an AI. At first, she tried to rationalize it. Maybe he was stressed, or maybe he thought it was a fun way to handle arguments. But the more she thought about it, the more it felt like betrayal. Marriage, she realized, wasn't just about coexisting. It was about engagement, attention, and effort. And here he was outsourcing the most basic part of their relationship, talking to her. She remembered smaller incidents that subtly made sense. The way he sometimes replied late, vaguely, or without real feeling. The way arguments never felt resolved, no matter how long they lasted. It wasn't that he didn't care. It was that he wasn't putting in the effort to show it. She also thought about the power dynamics at play. Using AI to reply isn't illegal or shocking in itself, but doing it in private, about her, raised serious questions. Did he fear confrontation? Did he want her to think he was apologizing sincerely when he wasn't? And what about their communication habits? If she couldn't trust that his words were his own, could they ever truly resolve conflicts? The emotional impact hit hard. She felt hurt, frustrated, and a little powerless. This wasn't just about AI. It was about effort, respect, and validation. She realized that the AI wasn't the problem. It was what it represented. Over 12 years, she had invested time, emotion, and care into this marriage, and she expected the same in return. But this felt like a shortcut, a way to bypass honest, vulnerable interaction. Now, she faced a dilemma. How could she bring this up without him becoming defensive? How could she express that it wasn't just about AI, but about feeling seen and heard? Could she salvage this marriage when trust, even in small ways, was being outsourced to a robot? After reflecting, she decided that the first step was conversation. Honest, direct, and non-accusatory. She planned to share her feelings about communication, effort, and respect, emphasizing that it wasn't about AI being wrong, but about how it made her feel ignored and undervalued. She also recognized a larger lesson for anyone watching. Relationships require active participation. Technology can't replace emotional presence. Words matter, and effort matters, even in mundane interactions like texts about laundry or apologies. By confronting the issue calmly and asking for mutual understanding, she hopes to open the door to deeper communication, and maybe to reestablish trust that has been slowly eroding under the guise of convenience. In the end, it's not the AI. It's the message it sends about care, attention, and respect. If your partner starts letting technology handle the personal side of your relationship, it's time to pause, reflect, and speak up, because no AI can replace the human touch in love and connection.